Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the LFC Transfer Room. We're here today with another roundup of all the latest news and rumours. We've not signed anyone still, but hey ho, it is what it is. We don't need to sign anyone controversial to start with. But yes, joined today by Dan, Jonathan, and Race. We're going to go over all the latest news and rumours. And then please make sure everyone click like and subscribe. And if you're watching on Twitter, because there are a lot of you who have been watching on Twitter recently, so thank you so much. Head over to YouTube and get involved with the comments and subscribe while you're there. And I did spell the right "your." I had a panic then for a second, but yeah, just head over and subscribe. We're close to 11,000 subs, so if we can make that happen, that'd be absolutely amazing. If you do want to get involved with the comments, you do have to watch it on YouTube. So yeah, type in LC Transfer Room. You can't really miss it. Got a first comment saying, what is hashtag Richard Hughes actually doing at Liverpool, please? I'm sick because of this summer transfer. Well, he's doing a good job, I think. But we'll get into that in a bit. We've got a lot to go through today, a lot of sales more so than anything. Dan, we'll go to you first. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm actually doing kind of fine. Like some people know in the chat, like I just finished like my summer job, prepping to move, move pretty far distances, in the next like 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. I have a lot of free time on my hand to do some things. But really well. I've enjoyed preseason. The Ipswich game was very good. I'm glad that my Gravenberch at 6 shout, which I've been banging on since the transfer stream last year, has finally caught on, and people are finally seeing the wisdom that I had from my boy Ryan Gravenberch. But pretty well. I mean, I'm actually excited to see our next game is Brentford at home. So I'm actually very excited for that, because if we can get 2 wins on the bounce, especially similar to the Ipswich game, that makes me very confident going into United, because United still just look like, I don't know how to put this mildly, like just absolute garbage, even though they're still like trying to buy all the players under the sun. Not as many as Chelsea, but yeah, I'm feeling very good. I'm excited. I'm excited for the next 2 games. I'm excited to see what happens with the rest of the transfer window, if anything happens. But still looking at the transfer window in general, it's been a very interesting summer and year, even if we have not necessarily been the most active. Well, it's not fair. We've been active, but not the most finishing of the clubs in the summer transfer window.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are sort of, the day we make a signing is gonna, everyone's gonna blow up and be like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" But then, as soon as we sign one player, it then goes to right. Well, who are we getting next? And you're never gonna be satisfied. Let's be completely honest. We always think we can buy more and better. And yeah, Jonathan. I'll put that to you then. Like, first, how are you? And do you think we're actually going to sign anyone in this window?
Um, I'm good. I'm still buzzing over the win at the weekend. I have to say yes. We are LFC transfer room, so I have to say yes for a transfer.
You don't have to be politically, like, you can have your own opinion.
This is a politically incorrect. You can go against the mainstream here, Jonathan.
We did sign a barista machine, and I think that's more than enough.
That's our best sign so far.
Other than that, I'm looking forward to Brentford at home next weekend.
Yeah, Race, same thing too. Like, how are you doing? And be honest, how excited are you for the coffee machine that's been brought into the club? What kind of impact do you think having a player will have on this squad?
Well, since I introduced coffee into my life, years ago, it's been a tremendous addition. So, the A+ move, I think, bringing in a new coffee machine to boost the players. But, just like I honestly don't know if we're going to sign anyone. You see reports of, we're happy with our squad. Oh, there's still some interest out there, and I honestly don't know what to think, just given that the move for Zubimendi obviously fell through, and it seems like there at least haven't shown there has been a backup to that. Is the Joe Gomez going out? Will that then create a space to bring in a player? But we're kind of getting down to it. Like the window's almost closing here. So how much longer can you really hold on? It seems like, unfortunately, it may turn out we're just looking for the right deal. If someone becomes available, and then we're going to act on it. It's not like it doesn't seem like we're actively seeking out anyone, or at least I haven't seen any concrete links. So it's it's a frustrating time for those that want us to bring in a player. And I do think that we need to to bring in a player. I don't think, to go into a new season, it'd be a little naive to not, bring in players, think, oh, our squad's good enough. Well, then injuries happen, stuff like that, and then your squad is thin. So, everything looks, pretty nice here when you only have one game per week, to start off the season. But once we get to those midweek games, international games, and all that stuff, that's when your squad is tested. And I think we do have some areas of we can improve on and bring in players.
And with this Champions League format as well, the 8 games or something ridiculous like that, like you need depth now more than ever, especially with even Man City. Their squad looks threadbare. Arsenal have recruited, but they're still short of a strike. Like no one is looking particularly equipped to go into this window in terms of with injuries and depth. And I think that pretty much is the same sort of application for us, with the overriding feeling being that it is starting to feel like we're not going to sign anyone, and it is very much going to be a window of get rid of the dead wood or the players who don't fit on a slot system, and then in 6 months' time reassess, then bring in players that we need to, which, is fair enough. We would like to see a signing, absolutely, but I feel like it's more organised in the behind the scenes than we're giving it credit for or seeing. I think there is probably a plan, it's just one of those things. We're going to have to wait and see. You touched on one player there, and that's going to be the first topic, because not a huge amount has happened today. Diaz rumours have come up recently as well, so we'll touch on them. But the main one, or one of the main ones, is Joe Gomez being linked away. Now, it's pretty much, it looks set, or it's becoming set, that Gomez is probably going to leave. He wasn't in the Ipswich squad. He wasn't even on the bench, and he was fully fit, which you've got a fully fit Joe Gomez. He makes the team. He's at least he's at least on the bench. So there's no reason for him to not get included. We've seen with Raheem Sterling and Chelsea, he's not in the team, and now the rumours are going, oh, he's leaving. He put out a statement. Similar sort of thing has happened with Gomez. I mean, like Dan, is the solidity to the rumour, do you think, according to Greenland, Gomez to Chelsea? Look, everyone's going to Chelsea, but do you think that we should put any stock in Gomez is probably going to leave, or is this just sort of he wasn't in the squad, so why else would he stay, kind of thing?
No, I think it has a lot more wheels than even I would think so, considering if you think about Gomez hasn't really had that much preseason, Sevilla or Las Palmas. I don't know if that's because Slot doesn't rate him. I think it might be more the fact that Gomez wants more guarantees. I mean, he is 27. He was not. Was he in the Euro squad, or did he get left out by the end? I think it was in the England.
He was in the Euro squad, but he didn't play a single minute.
Yeah, and obviously, if I think with Joe Gomez, he's kind of at the point now that we brought him in when he was 17 under Rodgers. He was actually recommended by his assistant coach at the time, who was at Doncaster. He was at Doncaster Rovers. He recommended Gomez, who was at Charlton, to bring him in. I think at this point, Gomez is kind of looking at the writing on the wall. Like, is he really right now? He is third choice or fourth choice center back, and third choice right back, and potentially third choice left back. So where is he getting in the team at this moment as a starter regularly? Even like he's relying on Konate getting injured, which I know we're saying is a very much a possibility, but considering the fact that Konate played that game against Ipswich, did not get injured, the squad has looked very fit. They look more leaner. They seem to be less bulky, a little bit more lean and finesse. I wonder if there'll be a little bit less muscle injuries, because they seem to be more working on this idea of a holistic body where like you might be a little bit lighter, but you can bounce off and move a bit more rather than being more like brick shit houses that maybe Klopp really liked. I think there's more legs to it than we think. My only question is that if Gomez is going, are they going to keep Sepp Vandenberg or sell him too?
Well, yeah.
Because if they're selling both Sepp Vandenberg and Joe Gomez, then that tells me that they think they're going to buy a center back, or I hope they're going to buy a center back and they don't try to do the 3 center back thing again, like we did in 2020, 2021. Well, I don't think they would do that. Go from 5 to 3. I could see going from 5 to 4 and saying buying a Georgi Mamadashvili or or an Anthony Gordon, buying an attacker and buying a defender or buying a goalkeeper, because you're expecting those to be the next ones you have to transition, and then keeping Sepp around. I don't know how Sepp van der Berg feels about that. But the fact that Gomez seems to be not out the door, but I think I think there's going to be a lot more noise about that for the next 2 weeks than we're expecting. And he could very much go to Newcastle on the final day since they did not get Marc Guehi. And Newcastle need depth. They have no depth. I think the only depth they have is like left back, but that's because they have Lewis and Dan Burn, and that's really it. And Dan Burn's not really a left back. And on right back, they have Trippier and Livramento, who Livramento is a good right back, but they really don't have any good center back depth. So they need kind of that dynamic player. So Gomez, Newcastle, I think, I don't think it's any shock that he was included in the deal for Gordon. So I think that is very much a possibility. We've seen a lot of Joe Gomez. I'll be sad if he goes because I like Joe Gomez. I've been Joe Gomez's biggest defender. I think he, for the longest time, was our most important defender. It was very important for us, that title charge in 18-19 and our Champions League before he broke his leg at Burnley. And he's just been unlucky with injury, but he's been one of the best center backs. But if they're selling him, that tells me that, maybe they're buying a center back. Maybe they're just going to throw everything at the Anthony Gordon train. Who knows at this point? I think, if anything, what we've seen from this summer is that everything is on the table for Liverpool. The links to Euro, Gordon, and Zumamendi and Georgi Mamardashvili is that every position now is up for grabs. So I would not be surprised if we see Gomez go, a couple others go, and then one or two potentially odd, strange buys like Mamardashvili, where it's like it doesn't make sense now, but then like next year or next 2 years, it probably makes more sense.
Forward thinking is the idea behind the Mamardashvili offer. They've said that is going to be a future plan. If even he could go on loan for 2 years, he'd be happy to do that. But I think he touched on it perfectly. That in my mind, and I know it's probably not incorrect, but my opinion here is probably invalid with this because of what I'm going to say. But in my head, the fact that we're outpricing Sepp van den Berg, or we're pricing Sepp van den Berg out of a move, to me says that in Slot's mind, he probably knows Gomez wants to leave. And of the two, your options are either lose them both, at which point you have to buy a centre-back, or Sepp van den Berg, who's played a lot in pre-season, you can sell Gomez, get more money for him because he wants to leave and get first team football, and then Sepp van den Berg has a way into the team. So you get more money, you've got a centre-back there to cover him, and you're giving both players kind of what they want.
And you make your squad younger. You don't lose a homegrown because Sepp van den Berg counts as homegrown because he was here since 17. You clarify a lot of positions. So you kind of clarify, like, if Gomez is gone, then Trent and Bradley are right backs, Tsimikas and Robertson are left backs. It does clarify the squad a little bit. And actually, I think what we need a lot for the next year or two is a lot of churn, a lot of outs, only a little bit of ins. Like, we're probably going to have like 8, 9, 10 outs a summer and potentially 1 or 2 ins, similar to when Klopp's first summer, his first full summer after he came in, we only signed like 3 players, but we sold like 11 or 12. It was ridiculous.
I mean, to be honest, I can understand where the club is coming from the teams that have been most active this window really needed to be United. And yeah, we need to be, but I don't think we're in such a desperate state compared to, like you say, United. City now are going to be in a panic state after losing Alvarez. Like, Jonathan, is there a sort of we've touched in the past about players who could be up for the job. Endo was one that got brought up, and Gomez does seem to be one that people sort of go, if someone has to leave, he does seem like the candidate to do so. But is it ridiculous to be considered? Like, just to clarify, the rumours linking him to Bayern have been laughed off. They've basically said there's nothing going on there. That's just made up. That's been made up for weeks. The latest rumour is that if Marc Guehi doesn't go to Newcastle, then Joe Gomez could go to Newcastle because it's a cheaper option and he's very robust, can play multiple positions. But like, should we be considering even selling a player as versatile as him when we don't have that much depth and we still don't have that many players at the back and we've lost Joel Matip? Yeah, doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
I think we should keep him, but if you don't want to stay, if you want to get out and play that first team football, I don't really see why he should stay. That was our policy under the club as well. If the player don't want to be here, okay, leave. That was the policy. But I think we could maybe get the Anthony Gordon swap deal back on, or another player. I'm still rooting for that Anthony Gordon trade, especially after Diaz skied a few shots against Ipswich.
Yeah.
But it's been very good for us when he has played, and he has played all the same amount. He have been injured. He could have played one good season, been injured for a season. When Van Dijk got injured and we needed him, he got injured. And I would keep Sepp if Gomez leaves, just have him to give him the chance. But Nat Phillips, I have no idea why we still have him in the club.
Phillips is a legend.
I could really see Nat Phillips moving on.
Phillips needs to. I think at this point that he has to move on. Like it's been going on for far too long. And like, I mean, yeah, like if we do sell Gomez, Race, is there a way that we could sort of integrate Seth Vandenberg into this, like just to play the sort of, we sell Gomez and we'll probably get, I don't know, like 40 million, roundabout, like ballpark estimate, it's probably wrong, but like about 40 million pounds. We've then sold Carvalho for about 20. We've got players like Clark leaving and other youth players who have been linked to sales. Like, is selling Gomez and having Vandenberg sort of step up at the possibility of using those funds to sign a number 6? Like, is that good business, or does it just not make sense to sell Gomez now because we may not get someone to sort of come in to justify the sale?
I mean, I gotta be honest. I don't really see a future for Sepp with us. I mean, show me a case of a player getting loaned out that much and then it has a future with that team. Like, I don't see, even though it is a new manager we're bringing in, like until the only reason that he got, I think some minutes here in the preseason around that first part of the trip was because all our center backs were gone. I mean, we didn't have anyone else to play there, so it was Kwanzaa and then him and of course, Nat Phillips is still around. Like, it was just out of necessity that he played. I don't think there's really any future for him. Like, even if we sell Gomez, like, I mean, it would be, I guess, by this point in years past, I think Sepp's already been loaned out. He's already where he's going to spend the season has been determined. So, I guess, seeing like we had a price for him, we're actively trying to sell him. Like, I don't see how he has a future with us. The thing, like what Dan said with Gomez, like, he's better. He showed last year that his value is, being able to play either wing back and can play center back certainly, but I think he's shown that his value is just being such a versatile player. And it was really nice to have him last year. Like, that's what you like. He is the perfect type of player you want in your squad, like someone who's able to do that. But it's clear that I think he wants a bigger role and more minutes, and I think that's just not something we can really provide. Or him playing a center back, I think he's been exposed at times. And again, last year he found his footing as being able to play in multiple positions and be a fill-in and perform really well. And so his value is going to be at its almost, you think, at its peak, right? I mean, he's looking for more game time, and he's a Premier League proven player. He's English. He's he's going to have a lot of interest. If there is if we're kind of making it public that he's available to buy. So I think it would be tough to go into this season with just 3 center backs. I would, because even if we keep Gomez around, he can play center back and we can use him still. But I think it would be really dangerous, to go in with just, Konate, Van Dijk, and Kwanzaa, because already, started, last year we saw, it was like the first month of the year, Van Dijk was suspended, Konate picked up a knock, and we were starting Matip and Kwanzaa, away at Wolves. I mean, that was like, it hit us right away. So I really hope that there is a plan, to bring in another player again, because I don't see Sepp, really having a future. And same with Nat Phillips as well. He should have been sold, multiple windows ago, but he's still hanging around. Just how we managed that, I think, has been poor. It's Konate, Van Dijk, and Kwanzaa, but we need to bring in another because it would just be really, really naive to not have the depth, especially as we mentioned, with all the more fixtures that we have and Champions League and all of that. So just there just isn't a future for Sepp, basically.
So well, I was going to say final thing on that. I don't think this is a thing where Liverpool are like don't think it's they're shopping Sepp around. I think there are 2 or 3 teams that have said like we'll pay him, and they're like, well, he's 20 million, and it's kind of back to that. It's not them saying players pushing for moves; they're just stating what their price is. So for Carvalho, they said like, oh, it's 25 to 27 for Brentford. Bobby Clark, like Salzburg, because Pep's there. He really loves Bobby Clark, and Liverpool like, well, it's 10 rising to 12 or 15 million. Yeah. And it just took them, like, they're setting their prices and they're making them come for it. I think with the Nat Phillips thing, it's just always gonna be something we just have to deal with. Like, there's always gonna be players like Nat or like Reece Williams who have the one season and just don't get moved on. Origi was one of them, and he still played a big role at times. I'm not saying Nat Phillips is gonna play a big role this season. I hope not. But it's also like you're not putting someone in there that's like a League 2 player. He's not like, we can all criticize him being on the wages he's on, et cetera, but he's a professional footballer and he's just going to be there. I think with Sepp, there's very much this reluctance. Like, this is the price tag. Unless you meet it, he's staying. I just don't know if that means they're bringing in a center back, which is kind of my worry. Go ahead, Lou. I know you're going to pose a question to
no, it's fine. My thing, and it's like sort of to everyone in a sense, is do we obviously Gravenberch has stepped up into that number 6 role in the one game. It has only been one game, just to sort of, put a bit of a spin on it, because for all we know, he could dip after that Ipswich game. We've just played the newly promoted team. It's not like we've played Man City and he's absolutely smashed it. We don't know how he's going to go. But do we need to be signing a number 6 more than we do another centre-back, given, like, what Ray said before, and we've seen in the past that when injuries happen, it's a centre-back that we struggle the most. So should we really be prioritising that number 6 ahead of another centre-back for a bit more depth?
I genuinely don't know. That's what I've said like this whole summer. I even made the argument back in June when we had no news that, like, you can make the argument you don't sign anybody for any position, not because you shouldn't sign anybody, but that there are so many positions. I think the 6th question has always come down to who is in that, who are you keynoting for that position? I think that the 6th question has always been one that it comes down to what profile you want. I think Zubimendi, being the profile they were looking at, is someone who is essentially a Curtis Jones, but slightly older and maybe slightly more refined, which is a very interesting thing in my mind. I think what Gravenberch has shown is that he's very much capable of doing that. He went from a double pivot to a lone, and he looks way more comfortable in that position than Indo has, and I think you could roll with him. It's not even including the fact we still have Bajcetic and Tyler Morton. I would say, I've always said that the 6 is something that you can figure out with, because you pay with a double pivot, and that what's more important is your specialists, your forwards, and your center backs, because that's the market where there's just not that much quality. That's why Lenny Euro was someone they were looking at in Madrid, because Madrid have no center backs and United have no center backs, and they just overspent on De Ligt and this other guy. Like, they just don't have any good center backs. So those are the kind of the 2 ends of the market that you're really looking at, because there's just not really a lot of quality out there. Even with Anthony Gordon, we've argued this so much, how good is Anthony Gordon? I think he's actually really good and could work very much with his team. But it's like Anthony Gordon and Jarrad Branthwaite are not exactly, they're not exactly former Everton Academy players, not exactly the most like heart-stopping pounding transfers you could buy, but they could end up being the solution. And I would rather buy them than buy a 6. I would rather buy them than buy Manuel Ugarte, because I think if you're buying Manuel Ugarte, you're buying someone with $250K wage or a high wage, a high transfer fee, and it just doesn't fit the way Slot wants to play.
Well, the club itself, firstly, our priority this summer until it didn't was a 6, and that is true. But obviously, transfer plans change. You lose someone like a Joe Gomez at centre back, then you have to look in the market for that. Like, as much as people like to go, well, keep this player, sign this player, you sorted. Players often want to leave. Players want to move eventually, and we can plan all we want, but football is a reactive sport as much as it is a proactive thing. And like, no player is guaranteed to be staying at a club. Ederson nearly left City this summer, or the talks were around it. There's no player completely safe at a team. So yeah, the number 6 may have been the priority at one point, but if certain players leave or certain things happen, then your priority shifts elsewhere, and that's just a natural thing that happens. And Jonathan, I mean, Dan, I see you want to say something. I'm just going to ask Jonathan this.
No, go to Jonathan. I was actually going to say, please don't come back to me. I know I'll keep talking all day.
Like, who if Gomez does leave, obviously, we touched already on like a few times, like there's a lack of depth, there's a lack of availability at the back. We're an injury or two away from pretty much the season just going. So with that in mind, and it's something that's sort of been debated already this season. Some people think it's a good deal, some people think it's not. If Newcastle are rejecting offers Palace are rejecting offers of like 60 million, they're holding for close to 65. We sell Joe Gomez for 40, round about that mark. Got the Carvalho deal and all these other youth players. Could we then go for Guehi as an option? And I'm not saying we should, by the way, just to sort of steady the comments for a second, but should that be something we should consider maybe as an option, or do we just keep the money and hold out for that number 6 and just hope that something comes up at centre back?
I think we actually should try to get Gonzalo Inarsuin, or how I pronounce his name, I don't know. Because we have been looking for a left-footed centre back for a few years now. And I would love Branthwaite there just to piss off Everton fans. Even though we just have him for a season or two, would love to piss them off. And if Marc Guehi isn't going to Newcastle, I really don't think Palace would even consider sitting down and negotiate with us either, because we are haggling 5 million on Mamardishvili. I think we should buy a new centre back if Gomez leaves. The 6 role is, we have Grab, we have Endo, we have Maka. We wanted Subimendi. They don't want to buy another player than Subimendi. So why bother to hold on when we need squad depth at the back?
Someone's bear with me 1 second. Yeah, no, I agree. Look, this window has been very negative in terms of the fans' outlook on it. It's not been a particularly great window, but I'm trying to think of the phrase this, because there's no sort of right way of saying, but does it get to a point, Race, where like signing someone is better than signing no one? And it sounds like a weird way of asking it, but obviously the reports today, they've been completely squashed or near or there enough that Jarrad Branthwaite was a player who was on our radar. Don't know how much stock you buy in that. The odds got slashed on him. Everyone was saying, it's a possibility, but would you take signing Jarrad Branthwaite this window instead of signing no one? Or, what is this a deal that you would be happy with if it did happen? Which, by the way, again, not saying it should, but the odds for it got completely slashed. It's sort of since been laughed off. Haha. But yeah, would you take signing a Branthwaite over signing no one this summer?
Well, it's in a position of need, so I would be fine with it. You certainly, I get what you're saying. At least just to appease the masses. Basically, we should sign someone just to kind of quiet the crowd a little bit. Now, you shouldn't you react to basically what your fans are telling you, right? You can be smarter than that as a club. But, you don't want to be recklessly buying players like Chelsea. You just don't want to like if we would only buy Anthony Gordon this window, I think that would be kind of irresponsible. Why are we paying for a winger? And if Diaz would stay, that would just be totally unnecessary. I think it's all about who we sign, what position, what their role is. Branthwaite would be, it would be a certainly an interesting move. Premier League player, crosstown rival. I mean, it's certainly I would be fine with it. I don't want us to just buy a player for the sake of it. There has to be some sort of plan, and not necessarily a panic buy or anything like that. So us as fans, of course, we're getting frustrated. We're the only Premier League side to not sign a player this window, and you can make all excuses of we had a lot of players at the Euros and Copa America coming back later, new manager, not only new manager but overtaking a manager that had so much success at the club and taking over such a a strong squad already. Kind of implementing his his style and his expectations. And if we don't end up signing anybody this window, we're all gonna, I think, look towards January in a coping way and just saying, okay, we'll buy someone in January. Slot's gonna do his thing for this first part of the season, and then then he's gonna make his moves. I would certainly be, I would be disappointed that if we wouldn't bring in someone, but I'm just gonna put it. I'm gonna spin it towards a positive and just be like, all right, let's we do have a good squad. We have enough to to have a successful first part of the season. But I would be I still think it would be like I said, naive to not sign anyone. But I don't want it to be a reckless buy or a panic buy or this player's available, let's buy him or something like that. But Branthwaite would be an adequate signing for me, I would suppose. I just think that there just has to be a little more. I just don't know if we're going to sign anyone. That's the thing. I mean, I'm just up in the air. What we're going to do.
No, it is a bit of sort of uncertainty, but like Branthwaite, that like what. I think we're in the sort of the crazy period now where, because we as fans are so like, well, some fans are like, oh my God, we have to sign someone. We've got to sign someone. That people are just throwing any name into the media and everyone's picking up on it, going, oh my God. Like, how much are you realistically going to spend on Jarrad Branthwaite, who, again, Everton player, they would charge you astronomical. If they wanted to do business, we'd have to probably pay a bit more. But like, realistically, how much are you paying for a Jarrad Branthwaite to the point where it's still good business?
And I think the important thing here, well, actually, I think for Jarrad Branthwaite, I think anything over 55 or 60 million would probably be way too much for someone of him. That you could argue saying, and I think Liverpool probably wouldn't pay that much for someone who's not going to start. Like Zubimendi, paying 51 million for Zubimendi for his buyout clause made sense because Zubimendi probably will eventually be a starter by December if he doesn't start the first couple of weeks. I mean, for me, the most, I think the sign that has been the most encouraging has been this window leaks about the contract extensions, which either tells me that only one of them may extend. That might be Trent. And the fact that hasn't been announced yet is more the worrying part, because a lot of this selling, I think a lot of what's been pushing for these, not selling, but like willingness to let Carvalho go, Clark go, potentially others more in Indo, is that they need to raise capital for the potential that they're going to have to replace a right winger, a top center back, and a top goalkeeper, because if they're buying Mamardashvili, it probably means that Allison is not going to extend. He's probably already said, like, listen, I'm going to pay out my contract, go back to Brazil. That's probably the more worrying situation, which means that this is really like the last year of this group of players, this kind of Olaf Klopp 2.0. So, and that means that Liverpool will have a lot of work to do next summer and this January to fix that. And I think of the fact that a lot of the signings we've been looking at, the Mamardashvilis, even the Gonzalo Ignacio, these are like players that are very young. They have played in various systems that are going on the ball, but they're very much players that are going to replace positions that are potentially going to be vacant next summer. Not even including the fact that Ibrahima Konate is in his second year of his contract, meaning next year he's on a 1-year deal. So there's just a lot of work that Hughes has to do. I know what a lot of the things in the chat have been that, what is Hughes doing? He's just trying to figure out, he's trying to figure out all these different things that we're just speculating about. I imagine that they'll probably make 1 or 2 sightings. They just may not be the ones we anticipate. So I know Race mentioned like Gordon, Mamardashvili, potentially Ignacio, but they're making these signings with the idea that they have a lot of problems they need to solve in the next year or two. Now, granted, those problems could be solved within the squad, and this has happened before, where they want to sign a center back, Sepp stays, he improves massively. They're like, okay, we don't need to replace Van Dijk. We're going to replace like next rung down, whoever that may be. Not even including the fact that Robbo and Tsimikas are probably going to be gone the next 2 years as well. So just on that front, you're talking about replacing 7 to 8 first team players, or first team squad players in general, which is just a lot of work they have to do. And I think that's what drives a lot of this anxiety with this summer, is that if they don't sign anyone and they don't do the contracts, then it's just an astronomical
panic.
Exactly. Yeah. Everyone's going to panic and freak out and all that stuff as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're kind of at this moment, and why no news has been just as terrible as like, oh, Liverpool miss out on another player. And to Brandon Webb's question, can Branthwaite actually play football? Yes, he can play football. He is a good ball playing center back. The problem is that if you're spending, and I know Carter brings this up a lot, if you're spending 60 million on Branthwaite, if you spend a lot of money on one player, it prevents what you can do in other places in the market, which I agree with. That is true. However, I would say, and I want to keep saying this, our problem areas going forward are not going to be the midfield. It's going to be those other looming swords of Damocles, so to speak, the long-term contracts. What are you doing with Trent, Allison, all those players?
Yeah, and look, this is the thing. I think those contracts are having an impact on what the plan is going forward. Because for all we know, we may want to sign a right back, but Trent doesn't know what he's doing per se. So as soon as we get clarification on that, okay, then we move on to a different area of the pitch. Like, you're absolutely right. I completely agree that people aren't looking at this as this is an entirely new backroom setup. This is a new manager. Players are having to adapt to his style. There's so much stuff that's changed behind the scenes that all the people who thought, well, we've brought Hughes, Julian Ward, Michael Edwards, all these people back, that we were going to go out and spend this and this and this and bring in this and this and this. But maybe under Klopp, we might have been a bit more active because we know what to expect. We know what type of player he wants. There's data to confirm that. But we've got a new manager coming in with an entirely new backroom staff, or near or thereabouts, an entirely new backroom staff. We're not going to go out and go nuts in the window. It doesn't make sense to. But I think what he's doing with this whole feeling out what he's got, get rid of anyone he doesn't like or anyone who's not going to fit his plans, and then invest maybe a little bit down the line when we know where the problem areas are. We know we need a number 6. We know we need more depth centre back, but maybe Slot is finding a way around that. And maybe in a few months' time, a different area comes up with the pitch where you go, right, we do need someone there. A left back at the minute, Robertson didn't look great, and Tsimikas is good, but he's not good enough to be a starting left back for me personally. So in time, we are going to get a better idea of what we need, and maybe that's just the sort of plan. But like Jonathan, Dan touched on it there, that obviously the contracts are playing a part. And next summer we could get to a point where we are in a panic. We are in a sort of, we're going to lose these. We've lost these players. We've lost Van Dijk, etc., etc. We need to sign people. But should that not be more of an impetus then for us to say, right, let's get someone now rather than waiting to see what happens with the contracts, kind of thing?
Obviously, we should. And worst case scenario, all 3 leaves, and we need a new right winger, right back, centre back. Best case scenario, 2 stays, 1 leave. I don't think everyone is going to sign a new contract. But we have seen what Liverpool are doing. They have let world-class players go for free before. Wijnaldum, they let his contract run out. You know, he decided it himself because of Gakpo, Nunez, Matip, Thiago mostly injured, but when he was playing, no one was better on the ball than him. I expected at least 1 signing this window, just to have that Arne signing. So you see that transition slowly starting. But as Dan said, under Jurgen as well, we did sell 8 to 9 players and did only buy in 2-3 players the first seasons. But for us now, it's really frustrating. I think we should future-proof right wing, centre back, and right back, not goalkeeper right now, because we have Alisson until 2027. I want to say trust the process and trust Edwards and Hughes, but I also feel on that frustration that Hughes really don't know what he's doing. Maybe it's been a too big of a step for him, to be completely honest.
There's a point saying that Virgil van Dijk, Trent and Salah should have been done long ago, sleepwalking in the office. Now, my argument, not an argument, it's a bit, let's keep it, is that when's the last time that a player came out to the media and said, I've been offered a contract, I'm not doing it, or I've got a contract, I'm accepting it? No player comes out and says what's going on with their contract situation, because what benefit do you have from that? If things aren't going well, all you're going to do is vex the club. If things are going well but take a turn, then yeah, no player talks about their contract situations. For all we know, they are getting sorted. They are in a season now where they have a new manager who's come in. Maybe they want to see how it is under the new manager before they make their decision. You look at Man United, they have players, I know it's a different situation, but they have players like Evra, Vidic, Ferdinand, who were older, absolutely. But as soon as they saw the direction the club was going in following Sir Alex Ferguson leaving, that's when they decided to leave. They gave it that one extra year to test how the waters were going to be. Then they went, no. Some of them were too old, like Ferdinand left because, he was getting on. But Slot has to, as much as the players have to impress Slot has to impress the players as well to convince them to stay at this club. They're at the age now where they need to be considering their later goals. I mean, race, what is the priority? Should we be signing the players on the contracts and securing what we have already? Or should we, be looking to go on to the next generation of players coming through? And do you think that there is probably progression behind the scenes with regards to their contracts? Or do you think it is a case of sort of, we'll cross that bridge when we get there?
I agree with what you said. It's for these, players, they've been with us for so long, and to have a new manager come in and just kind of change how we do things. We don't know specifically, the changes, in terms of training and just the everyday routines and stuff like that, right? I mean, you just kind of want to feel that out, for these professionals, that are in, been so seasoned with us. So I like with that way of thinking, oh yeah, hopefully they'll see that everything's kind of rolling along, and we'll get those contract signs. But for their own personal sake, especially Van Dijk and Salah, being up there in age and really wanted to make sure that this is where they want to be. I'm most confident that Trent would sign a new deal, just given that he's a vice captain, he's younger, he's a boy at Liverpool. I don't have too much concern that he will re-up with us. I think again it's just kind of that professional. I don't want to say courtesy, but just to make sure that everything's still going along, and there's because you never know, things could go sideways, things could just really crater, and you just want to give yourself that protection. It's just kind of unfortunate, that it's these guys' contracts are up in the the first year that they're going to have a new manager. I think it's just kind of a perfect storm of things looking bad, of things that could go wrong. I think Salah, I think is I think we even talked about this last summer. The future without him. What's his future look like? Is the Saudi Arabia, is that going to be a thing for him? Cash in on his value and whatnot. There's going to be look, he's not going to be at the club forever. I think whereas Trent, you could see him retiring as a Liverpool player. I think the other two you could see ending their careers somewhere else. I think Salah more so than Van Dijk. I would hurt. If I had to rank them, like I said, Trent would be the most confident. Then Van Dijk, then Salah. I think they're just doing their due diligence. I believe. Certainly. Once we get into the the thing is, what they can start negotiating with other teams. They don't sign by January. Is that the case? So that's
outside of their league.
Right. So, that's kind of a scary thing to think about, right? We're not that far away from that. So I think that's where people have the panic. But like I said, it's just kind of the unfortunate timeline of how things are here, with the new manager coming in and these three key players having their contracts come up, next summer. So again, I'm still, it's a tough balance too, right? Of bringing in new players and having to deal with how to take care of your current players you do have. And I don't envy, the job that these guys have to do right now of managing those two different things. It really is a tough spot, but I'm confident that, hopefully the results will be good and we'll play well, and that'll kind of ease everything. I mean, that's what's going to ease all this stuff, right? I mean, if we just keep playing well and put out some good results out there, then we're going to kind of push that stuff, on the back burner. We're not going to worry as much. I think if we get off to a really poor start this year, then we would really have some concerns. So again, it's important that we keep things rolling, and that kind of gives these guys some confidence. Say, all right, Sly, I just need that little confirmation that things are going to be good. It's not like I don't think they need much convincing, right? I think we just, as long as things just keep there is not much convincing to do. As long as we don't completely drop the ball here in this first couple months of this season, I think we'll be in a good place for those new players, or for re-signing those players.
On that, you have to keep in mind as well that yes, they're in football and well, but when it was Slot who was the name who was touted with us, and obviously he got announced eventually, let's be honest, no one here was an expert on Slot. None of us were like, oh, we know all sorts of stuff. The players are going to be in that same boat potentially where they don't know a lot about him. They don't know anything about him. So they're going to need time to see what he's capable of. And this question's sort of to everyone and the chat as well, but we saw last summer, I think it was, when we were struggling, or January, or whenever it was, we were struggling to sign players. Contracts got announced. I think Henderson got one, Trent got one, Van Dijk got one, everyone did. If there's one thing that you can give credit to the club, or credit to, or not credit, however you want to phrase it, is that they're good at the PR thing where it's, yeah, we're not signing anyone, but look, here's this new contract for this player. So is there an argument to say that the contracts are being discussed and they're almost actually done or could be done, but we're going to wait until the window ends and then go, Trent, Salah, Van Dijk, new contracts. So stop stressing. Like, that's just to everyone. Like, if anyone's got an opinion on it, because that to me seems like something that is plausible. We get out the window, fans are sort of like, oh, we've not signed anyone, but don't worry because we've signed these 3 down to contracts. So no stress. Is that a possibility?
I mean, it is a possibility. I think there's a little bit of I think people are not understanding that the reason these contract situations are all coming at the same time is because Klopp wasn't going into his final year this year. So he actually ended a year early. So a lot of them had not renewed yet because they don't know if Klopp was going to stay, renew, or who's going to come in after. So one of the reasons Klopp left, at least in my opinion, is that he realized this is going to take a lot of work because of just how this works. Because when you build a football project, like, you're going to accumulate people. They get older, they get long contracts, their contract renewals come up, and you need to sort all those out. And I think what Klopp realized, I think he realizes in November, is that, like, you can look at a graph and say, we have to do all these different things. All these different players have question marks. Like, I don't think I'm the right man for this job anymore. And he dipped out. I don't think it's a damnation of the ownership or Hughes or Edwards or anything else. I think it's just Klopp realizing that he was no longer the best person for the situation. Maybe 8-9 years ago he would have been, but now he's like, no, there's just too much. Because Klopp would essentially say, give Mo, Trent, and Van Dijk everything they want, sign them to ever. But I think he also didn't know if he wanted to stay beyond that year. So there's a lot of different things that went on that kind of have led us to this moment. The PR thing, I don't know, because I don't think that I don't think Richard Hughes is going to sign Van Dijk and Salah on a 2-year contract just for good PR. I think if they're signing them on a 2-year contract, not including Trent in this, it's because they're like, we know we can get 2 years out of them. I think right now, from Van Dijk and Salah's side, and I think from Van Dijk it's more interesting because he said they haven't had any contact yet. I think it's because they've been trying to get the transfer situation figured out first before they've done the contracts, because they need to figure out who can we get and why, because that strengthens your bargaining position when you negotiate contracts. Because if you're going to them at the end of the window with no player signing, they can essentially say, well, I want 2 years, or I'll yada, yada, yada. It's always a back and forth situation going on. There's no perfect way to do this. They could have signed them at the beginning of the summer or gone and negotiated with them, but then there's no guarantee that they would have accepted, just because, again, like you said, Lou, and I think Jonathan Race hinted at this, like, it's not Klopp, so you don't know who you're working with. And I think that that's going to be a process as well. I think the good thing about contract negotiations is that you can sign them after the transfer window closes. So there is a situation where we get into December where, like, 2 of them are announced, or 1 of them is announced, or all 3 are announced by then as well. So this is definitely something that can still be done. They can even run their contract down and then you just re-sign them in July. I think Milner did that a couple times, like with a 1-year extension, or even Lallana.
Sort of
Yeah, exactly. even like I think a couple of them had that situation. Phillips had that situation. It's why we still have him at the club, because his contract had expired. He was already going to go somewhere else, and then Liverpool reoffered him a contract. So this is definitely going to be a fluid situation, and I don't think we should get too caught up on it. The only one that, again, I'm really worried about is Trent, because he's the one you can't replace. Like, you can replace Van Dijk and Salah in some way. You can replace them in.
You can't replace Van Dijk and
so Jonathan, I'm not saying the player. I'm saying you can replace. You can replace what you get with shape changes, with personnel changes, getting someone that does one or two things of what Van Dijk does, but a little bit better. But not as good in other areas as well. Like, yes, you have those unicorn players like Van Dijk, like Salah. But the idea is that Trent, for me, is the one that's non-negotiable. He's the youngest. He's the most. He's the one with the brightest future. You can just see in Ipswich just how much Trent, as a passer, as a deep line playmaker from right back, just changes everything in how you play. So we've won games without Salah and Van Dijk at center back. I just want to stress that it's not like we lost them and then the season collapsed.
Yeah, I do agree. But if I need to pick one of them, you can only give one of them a new contract. I would also say Trent, because he's the youngest, is Scouser, and he will wear the captain's armband if Van Dijk leaves next summer. I'm pretty sure of it. If I got the choice, I would have picked Trent, but I would love two of them, and if they get all three to sign a new contract, it would be heaven. I would love it.
I agree. Trent is the obvious candidate. I'd say no respect to Van Dijk and Salah, because they are two of the best players that we've ever had in, I'd say, Liverpool history. It's a bit of a shout, but they are two of the biggest,
it's Liverpool
most
history.
important players.
They are some of the best players in Liverpool history. Van Dijk and Salah.
Well, Salah 100%, and Van Dijk is like top 2 or 3 centre backs like that we've ever had. But Trent is, you touched on that, like he's young. No one bar Kevin De Bruyne in terms of passing can do what Trent does. He's so versatile, obviously coming into midfield. He's the one that you need to sign down. But thought of losing Van Dijk and Salah next summer, 2 key things. This year is meant to be the transition, so to speak, where we're expecting a bit of a dip, but we're not going to get it. My worry is we dip this season and then we dip even further the season after. And, you know, like touched on here, let's remember LFC is back to being a data-driven back room. Does the data say new contracts on all 3? Possibly not. I mean, Van Dijk was fantastic last season, but he had little dips here and there, I think, towards the end. Salah is still world class, let's face it, but he is obviously getting older. He has lost maybe a yard of pace or so. And Liverpool do have a history of cash in, or not cash in, but move them on when it does become a bit of a problem. So there's no way of knowing. There's at the minute, I think contract situations, you can just sort of dispute them all you want, but I don't think anything's really, nothing's in concrete. We don't really know, but like, yeah. Other than that, though, there's not a huge amount to say on it. Like, no player is going to come out and go, "Oh, this is going on." Because to them, you've got to consider as well. I know, as much as it's not private information, no player wants to come out and go, "Well, the club's offered me a contract with this amount of money, so yeah, I'm going to take." Like, you don't go around saying you pay slip to people. Like, it's the same type of thing. No player is going to come out and do it. Race. I mean, I'll give you the crack at it. Like, what? Obviously, we'll touch on it briefly, but like Diaz things, obviously he's been linked away also. There's a lot of players that are still going. Is there any key player? Obviously, Gomez we've spoken about, but is there anyone in this squad now after that Ipswich game where you're looking at it and think you could still go? Like, I'm at the point now where other than Gomez, I'm set that everyone who's here now will be here at the end of the transfer window, but do you think that there's a world where Diaz still goes, or do you think there's a world where maybe a different type of player goes? Like, what are you thinking with that?
I think the time has passed for Diaz to make a move out, just given that Barcelona were interested in Nico Williams, and that just didn't really materialize. And then they kind of if the reports are valid, that they're kind of are interested in Luis Diaz. I think it would be because that's a move. Like if we would sell Diaz, we would certainly, whether it be Anthony Gordon or someone, I think we would bring in a player to replace him. We would just simply put, Cody Gakpo out on that left-hand side. I think that's there would have to be an incoming move to facilitate that one as well. So I don't see him moving in this window. I think, again, it's the first year of a new manager. I think there's going to be maybe like a surprise player that might be on the way out. I'm not bold enough to say maybe who that could be. I'll just sprinkle it out here, like play like Curtis Jones. Like, is he going to stay through the next year? Like, look like if our midfield is getting strong, and like if the players above him are playing well, like we have McAllister, Sobasai, if Gravenberg's kind of nailed down his spot, of course you have Harvey Elliott, maybe Bajcetic breaks through, and then is Curtis Jones, is he proven that he's going to be better than those players? And I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying there could be a surprise player that we don't know is going to leave the club. Like in Andy Robertson, like is his time going to come up after this year, and is he going to leave? I think we should just prepare for some player that we don't realize, or like Nunez, like is he going to have another year of, well, he did improve last year, but he is, we all see, he misses some chances and all that, like is Slot going to just be like, all right, you know what, I'm just I got better players here that I want to develop, and could be on the way out. I just think there could be a surprise player in the next summer. I'm not saying necessarily this season. Someone's going to leave. I think it's going to take a year for a player to realize, like, all right, again, like I said, I just said Curtis Jones because he's a player that is trying to break in and get some more regular football. Right, he's going to be entering the prime of his career soon. And does he see himself, being an everyday player for us? Again, he's another youth product for us, but it's going to be that tough conversation of like, all right, is there a spot for me here full time, or do I have to seek some more football? Especially a player of him, almost I think he was in that provisional England squad before the Euros. He's kind of trying to knock down that door. So can he break through to the England team with us? It's just something to consider. It was just kind of the first name that came to my head. Just given that our midfield in that position, that it's kind of can be loaded if all the players kind of play to their potential. So I think it's I don't see any more outgoings this window, in terms of like, the regular first team players, it could be some younger players, to leave on loan or go out or whatever, like the Bajcetic thing, he was, given permission to go out on loan. I'm not sure, where that stands at this point, but I certainly don't want to sell him. I want to keep him around and loan and get him, integrated into the team. But I think in terms of outgoings, I think we're pretty set with our regular players.
Just a quick update. Pedro Porro has scored for Tottenham, which means Tottenham's going to win the league in the first 6 weeks again for the 20th year in the row. They're going to win the league again
until the losing streak happens, and then it all just goes to shit.
Yeah, it was a really good header by Porro. It was a good thing by Maddison. It's one of Maddison's like 10 assists before he's out for like 15 games with an injury.
Oh, he's not in my fantasy team. I had him in, and I took him out.
This is why I don't play fantasy, Lou. This is why I don't play fantasy. My life is just much less stressful.
I haven't actually got a Tottenham player in my team. I have 2 Leicester players, but they're on the bench.
Race, I can't believe you slandered Curtis Jones like that.
I didn't mean to slander him. I'm just saying, like, it's just given the competition, and like I just feel like there could be a surprise player that we all don't expect is going to leave, and that's just the name that came to my head.
I agree with that, but I think that would be more of a like you hear it in January than you do now. I think everyone who is in the match day squad will probably be here.
Yeah,
and maybe the only one is Kelleher because they do have Yaros, and I think they do rate Yaros behind the scenes. Granted, with the
yeah,
but they won't. But I think the fact they want Mamardashvili means that, like, I know someone's mentioned Ali Drumtum mentioning giving Ali money. I just think it's because if they're already looking at a goalkeeper to replace Allison, it means they think Allison's going or he's not going to renew his contract no matter what they offer him. And Liverpool are not going to offer him like 350 grand a week like United did to De Gea because they're smart and not ran by a bunch of insecure businessmen at Manchester United. I do also with what Jamie you said with the data driven thing. I think it's interesting that I know he means it like in kind of a quote air quotes like a bit of a sarcastic way. I do think it's interesting that if you look at the 3 players that Liverpool have been 4 players now that they've been linked with. Gordon, Zubimendi, Euro, and Mamadashvili, which looks like these are the 4 that they're very much interested in. They're all statistical anomalies, meaning these are all people that they see as potentially being the next ones up, and they're all young, which is the key thing. And I think that's I don't think they're signing anyone older than 25 and older than 25 and is not someone that is either going to be an immediate starter or someone that you will start in a year or 2 years. So I think that's the criteria we're going to see with these players, that anyone they buy is either going to start by January, December, potentially, or is going to be a starter by the end of this year when players are out.
To clarify too, what I said of like the surprise exit, like that would be in January or in the summer. I'm not saying this window, but I agree. Like it's not going to happen now.
If they had bought Zubimendi, I think there's an argument that Curtis Jones leaves next summer. I do think that would have been a possibility. I think the fact that they didn't sign Zubimendi and they have not bought anyone else, and there's no strong links with any other DMs, I think that people are going to have to suffer having Curtis Jones in midfield. I say suffer in air quotes because, he's actually a good player. I don't know why people don't like Curtis Jones. Like it's like he was the most consistent. He was the most consistent midfielder last year. Like I get it that people want. I love Ryan Gravenberch too. I think he can be world class, and Curtis Jones is just like Genie Wijnaldum part 2. But like, let's calm down now.
We're going to calm down, and we are going to leave as well because we have gone on for the hour now. Thank you, everyone, very much for watching. If you are new around here, please make sure to click like and subscribe. Next time we're live, if you're on Twitter, head over to YouTube. You can get involved with the comments then. Thank you very much to Dan, Race, and Jonathan for coming on. Tune in every single day, 7:30 p.m. UK time, for all the latest rumours and news and updates from us. And yeah, we will see you in the next stream. Have a nice night. Thank you very much.